So I want to thank you for joining us today to discuss anchoring digital trust with real identity. My name is Robert Humphrey. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with Onfido. I'm joined today with Dhruvin Shah, who's the security architect at Northern Trust. We're going to talk about in a world of ones and zeros and bits and bytes, how can you really know who you're dealing with? It's the challenge that we're all faced, in particular, even more during lockdown times and as we move more to digitization. So, I'll tell you a little bit about Onfido. This is the commercial part. Onfido anchors accounts, people to their real identity. And what do we mean by that? We verify your customer's identification. Your customers present just like at a nightclub, present their driver's license, a passport, what have you. We verify that that's non-fraudulent, that it's legit. We scan the front, the back of it. We do all sorts of machine learning based artificial intelligence to determine it's a legitimate document. Then we want to know that your customer is real. We do a selfie. And in doing that, we look for liveness. We look that it's actual real person, that again, it's not a fraudulent selfie. And then finally, we confirm that your customer is who they say they are. And we do that by comparing the photograph on their government issued identification to their selfie. All that happens magically in the background through automation, and can happen in absolute seconds. That's used to generate and maintain trust, and that's just not at the onboarding process, at that verification, which is very 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 common, as I mentioned, much like at a nightclub, somebody's coming in and they're checking on you. We do that when somebody's first signing up and beginning a new account. But then it's also used to re-authenticate somebody with their face. So if you think about a forgotten password, all of the pains that it is for all of us to go through that process of resetting a password, we allow you to do that with your face. To transact business, so if you're transferring big amounts of money, or if you're renting a car, or whatever it happens to do, transact business with your face without having to remember passwords, et cetera, and then editing your accounts. So also going back through and changing account information associated with it, again, with your face, because we've done that at that registration process and we've tied your face to a legal document, thus knowing it's your real identity. All that's done in a very inclusive fashion and at Onfido, we've got anti-bias algorithms that really drive the recognition across all ethnicities. To make sure that we're providing this in compliant to GDPR and other privacy regulations, when there's automation involved in doing this, we provide granularity of results. So you see how we made these decisions. How did we say, yes, it's you, or no, it's not? What are the granularity associated with that? And we do that covering documents from almost 200 different countries, all sorts of ethnicities, et cetera, and completely accessible. So just like the accessibility associated to getting into real life places, we have all sorts of usability testing across all the demographics and ages to make sure this can be used very simply. So that's a little bit about Onfido, what we do. We're about 450 people across the world. As I mentioned, we've checked documents from around 195 different countries. We've got over 1,500 clients, raised over $200 million in funding, and growing like crazy, and really excited that one of our great customers is Northern Trust, and I'll let Dhruvin now introduce himself and tell you a little bit about Northern Trust.
Thank you, Robert. I am Dhruvin Shah, Security Architect at Northern Trust. It is a real pleasure to be part of Octane 21, and with everything that has changed in the past year, feel really fortunate to be able to participate in this conference virtually. Northern Trust is a Fortune 500 financial firm based out of Chicago that primarily provides asset servicing, asset management, and wealth management services to institutional and high net worth individuals and families. We are one of the largest custodians in the country with over $11 trillion asset under custody, over $1 trillion asset under management, and over $160 billion banking assets. All three businesses work together to provide our clients with a range of services and solutions that best suit their needs. Our growth is a strong testament to our business model and the relations we have with our clients. We plan to pursue this business model into perpetuity by enhancing our products, services, and capabilities in line with our clients' developing needs and delivering on a number of key strategic initiatives and partnerships. Our mission within technology is to gain market advantage through thought leadership, solution, and IT capabilities that are as distinctive as our brand, and to effectively achieve greater for our clients and stakeholders. For example, launching world's first award-winning commercial deployment of blockchain technology for the private equity market from Guernsey, or delivering new tools capabilities for front and middle office solutions for large endowments, foundations, sovereign wealth funds, pensions, insurance, and multifamily offices.
Great, Dhruvin. I appreciate that. So the um, Northern Trust is huge. I had no idea. I think our audience probably had no idea how massive you guys are, and you're obviously at the heart of Northern Trust's strategy when it comes to technology, and I guess specifically around identity, obviously, which is why you're speaking at an Okta event with Onfido. So if you could take me through how identity became such a strategic imperative for Northern Trust.
At Northern Trust, we are always trying to improve the experience we deliver our clients. Digital identity is key part of this. Client experience is right at the heart of it. It's how they feel protected that Northern Trust is trying to keep their assets and investments safe. Ultimately, we are trying to build the entirety of our services across around the customers, not around individual products or around parts of businesses. So, identity is a long term strategic project for us. If I had to summarize its goals, I would say to unify our three services under the IAM architecture and improve experience, to enable Northern Trust to move its signature white glove experience online, and to enhance security across everything.
Yeah, that white glove experience, that's an interesting one. That's you guys are kind of known for that. You're known for your customers coming to your offices. You're known for going to your customers and you're dealing with high net worth individuals, high wealth, big assets, etc. So that white glove experience that I think that you're famous for, not unlike a Four Seasons hotel, that it's a physical experience that's so critical to your differentiation. And then how you shift that to one of a digital experiencing and technology's role in doing that. The challenges associated with meeting the customer's demands on their terms, the way they want that, because I'm used to my Northern Trust representative, if you will, showing up at my house or me going to their office and sitting down in that white glove experience. It's a big challenge that I think you guys have to have dealing with. And how do you create that same experience digitally? And
Exactly.
we see that a lot. We see that a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. So, do the challenges that we have resonate with Onfido?
Yeah, and certainly for we see it across the customer base, and uh, really re-emphasized and accelerated through the pandemic, um, partially driven a lot by increased fraud that we see through as a result of the pandemic. We've seen in 2020 41% increase in document fraud over last year. So people who are trying to are going delivering a fake document to try to crack the system. We've also seen a lower level of fraud sophistication, which is pretty interesting. What it means is more people are getting into the fraud game. The lower level of sophistication is also delivering. We're seeing it 24/7. We did a similar analysis in 2019, and fraud activity. You'd see it all the time, but the bulk of the fraud activity was kind of a 9 to 5 in a local geography. It was a 9 to 5 kind of a job. We're now seeing it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The volumes are consistent across. So you have new professional fraudsters are entering the market, which is driving that big increase. Um, and because in any crisis, fraud rates tend to increase. We see this from three different factors. One is this the opportunity. Is it possible to execute fraud? And with more and more people online, more and more experiencing moving from that white glove treatment in an office to an online experience, there's just more people to go after. People in a crisis rationalize getting into the fraudulent business by life's tough. And they rationalize, and you see more people, the psychology associated with it. You see more people rationalizing doing illegal activities. And then, frankly, COVID's made life difficult for lots of people, and the pressure associated with supplementing a person's income we see is also a driver, believe it or not, to fraud activity. The other big change we've seen is a huge rise, in addition to fraud, that rise in customer experiences and their expectation. This has been trending for a long time. If you will, the Apple Amazon experience that everybody's expecting. They're now expecting that as there's more and more digital services. They're expecting that more and more and more. They want everything that they do to feel like just using their iPhone or their Android experience. And I'm curious, for you guys in Northern Trust, is you're enabling more omni-channel online experience. How do you guys see identity playing into that?
So, as you mentioned, right, with COVID, the branches being closed because of, because of the pandemic, as you mentioned, right, users' expectations have increased. They want Apple, Amazon experience for everything, right? They demand all channels to work in conjunction so they can move between devices however they want. And when I say about all channels, it's like they consider mobile and web channel to be one, right? And it also makes sense because different devices are best suited for different things, right? At onboarding, a user can move between desktop where they can use a keyboard to type in, but then scan a QR code to use their cell phone to upload documents to capture selfie and be directed back to the web to finish the process, right? So they are able to use both the devices and utilize the strengths of both. So we want them to allow the same things for transactions, for authorizations, account onboarding. They can use their mobile device to authorize with facial biometrics, or perhaps in the future, even their voice, right? Making use of a second device also provides us a richer context that helps us improve security. We can generate trust by analyzing anonymous device location. Is the device where we expect it to be in a location that's expected of the user? Anonymous device fingerprints. Is the device recognized or new? Is it a genuine device? Is it jailbroken, rooted? Does the device has any malware on it? Behavioral analytics. We can look at the microphone, patterns in mouse movement, keyboard typing, mobile touchscreen, swipes. This all things help us give a much more rich context to create a risk-based security model. And it's all designed so users can complete the actions on devices that makes most sense of them while maintaining security across the journey.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We see the use of our technology. We see exactly as you guys are applying it as well, and that is if somebody is starting they're registering for a new account and they're doing it on a browser, they're on their laptop. When it is time to take a picture of a document, or it's time to take a selfie, their natural inclination is to pick up their phone, is to not necessarily, even if they have a camera on their laptop, which I think most of us do, their natural inclination isn't necessarily to look into that or to hold the document up to the laptop. It's to do the selfie. So that seamless integration between devices, where it's not, so it's you're using the device that makes sense at the time. And as you're saying, while I would like to think that all someone had to do is to take a picture of their document and their face, and we can guarantee that they are who they say they are, the additional fraud signals that you're talking about is what we're seeing more and more and more people using this whole entire fraud platform. And it's interesting not to block good users. 98%, I think the figures are 98, 99% of activity on a person's website, onboarding, et cetera, are good, valid customers. What you're trying to do, and I love the description of all the different signals that you're doing, is trying to find that 1 or 2% and find it very, very quickly from different signals. We're really struck by how quickly this is all being catalyzed, partially by COVID, but in industries like yours, financial services, the speed to digitization has been going on for years. I know, and you and I talked about offline how you guys were already doing this. This plan has been in place for years. The process and the increased improvements you've been seeing for years, and then the pandemic has just basically sped everything in big time. Um, uh, Also, we're starting to see the digitization, frankly, in places that we wouldn't have expected and are happening so fast. At my local pizza place recently, we don't touch a menu anymore. We're QR coding and seeing the menu. And then when I go to pay, I'm doing that same QR code to make a payment. I don't know about you, but I never want to hand my card to somebody to pay a bill again. The nature and the simplification that some of this new thinking we've had to go through because of the contactless world is really interesting.
That's true. One of the challenges in delivering an omni-channel experience is maintaining security, which I know is one of your Onfido's specialties, right? How do you see it?
But I'm supposed to be interviewing you. I'm kidding. No, it's a great question. The challenge from our perspective is that fraudsters have gotten really good at what they do. They're really good at kind of emulating trust, if you will, and because they've gained access to a lot, meaning they've hacked into bureaus used to be a big source of data. Um, SIM swap and unfortunately, most of those credit bureaus where our data is all kept on of to our mortgage amounts, what car we drive, et cetera, et cetera. That's almost all been hacked and has been challenged as a result. The multi-factor authentication, capabilities associated with SIM swapping, where a fraudster can actually fake out that he's got my phone. All of those kind of things may sound obvious, but it's a key at establishing trust at onboarding and getting past that data oriented onboard is a big deal because of the lack of trust associated with databases. And that's where biometrics can be really helpful and effective. You couple biometrics with some of the other fraud signals that you're talking about is where trust can really be established, and that trust at that onboarding approach. But I'm curious. I've done a lot of talking. What changes have you guys seen and are making in your approach to fraud and fraud detection?
So as you said, right, the data breaches has increased, fraud has increased year on year. There was a report released last year by Atlas VPN that looked at average cost of PII on dark web, right? SSNs were selling for as little as $4. They were often bundled with names, driver's license, passport number, email addresses. That's a lot of information to start committing impersonation fraud. Compromised bank accounts with 10,000 balances were selling as little as for $25. So one of the ways we are trying to address this is we no longer want to check for static data. As you mentioned, right? This data is easily accessible and it's not a good indicator of trust. So to secure against this, we have been looking at solutions that aren't known info, such as identity proofing, selfie checks at onboarding. We have had to integrate more ongoing risk signals, device fingerprinting, geolocation, GPS-based location. Consider these factors. There will be more users outside of enterprise accessing service than inside. Customers will have more unmanaged devices connecting to the services than managed devices. Internal users will consume more apps delivered from outside of enterprise with the advent of software as a service all across than inside the network. Because of this, network is no longer in the position of advantage. On the public cloud, where we have even fewer network controls, identity has become the new parameter. As depicted in the overlay here, identity has become the linchpin for security. Identity being the new parameter needs to account for online fraud detection, user authentication, compliance, and everything.
Those are great points, and what a challenge it is because like we were talking about, 98 or 99% of the users are good, valid, customers that we want to provide that white glove treatment to, and what teams like yours are having to do, and organizations like ours, and hopefully in assisting that, is provide that kind of fraud detection that goes kind of unseen by 99% of your users, but it's those 1 or 2% that all this infrastructure and effort is put into place so that we can continue to have nice, good white glove experiences for everybody else. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. We've spoken a lot about fraud, a lot about experience efficiencies, making, even though we are interjecting friction into the system, how do we make it feel as frictionless as possible? Um, let's shift to operating efficiencies. Do you guys see what kind of operating efficiencies do you see associated with some of the technologies you're deploying as well?
I think that we are finding in experiences operating efficiencies goes hand in hand. We want to provide frictionless user experience, right? For example, password resets, one of the most frequent high risk account actions, right? People would traditionally need to call into a call center to recover their accounts. Now, thanks to solutions like Okta, Onfido, a user can prove their account ownership using secure self-service options such as facial biometrics or a trusted device. So they no longer have to spend 10 minutes on the phone, which is a much better experience. They would be able to recover their password or unlock their account using their selfie, using a valid document within 2 to 3 minutes from their mobile phone itself. This also equates to major operating efficiencies.
Yeah, big time. The just saw a report from Gartner that reported that 30 to 50% of all IT help desk. You think about the IT help desk is there to support applications and all this other stuff, but 30 to 50% of help desk calls are for password reset, which is crazy. Although it's not surprising, since given we all have on average 80 different password protected accounts, hopefully we're not using all of our same passwords. But as we would propose, getting rid of passwords is a big deal, and it's something that people should be focusing on. 78% of us reset a password in the last 90 days. I've probably reset my password 90 times in the last 9 days, if you want to be honest. Seems like I'm doing it constantly. Um, and then that same report also showed that call to a call center on average is $70 for the cost to reset a password. So every time I call an IT help desk hey, I lost my password, it's $70. The cost, so it's ridiculous. And so the return for solutions like Okta, where you can do it for just self-service password reset, or then even making it even more kind of advanced using your face to reset passwords, you see pretty quickly how the operating efficiencies can start doing a lot of savings. So that kind of brings us to what other things are you guys looking at? What other future technologies is Northern Trust, and how do you see using other technologies?
So, as I mentioned during my intro, right, blockchain is one of the key initiatives we are looking into. Northern Trust is listed in Forbes Blockchain 50 list for 2021. Foreign exchange, etc., are other initiatives for us. With these initiatives, we are making investment opportunities available to new classes of investors, opening markets that were previously in non-public domains. With that said, we constantly have to be looking to new fraud detections and fraud response technologies. Entering into these new markets, entering into these new technologies, open new risks for us, right? And as you know, fraud is in an arms race. Fraud is never stand still. It's always getting smarter, and we have to be then got to be moving as well. Adopting to new technologies is a way to keep us a step ahead of the fraudsters. What about Onfido?
Yeah, it's similar. The whole area of fraud detection and prevention is a big area for us today. We're very focused on biometrics and document. We think we're the best um, in document fraud and biometric fraud detection. But in the future, there's going to be other technologies as well. And as you said, fraud is an arms race. It's not just about Onfido competing with our traditional competitors. It's also us competing against fraudsters. So finding other technologies and tools that we can integrate as part of our kind of ecosystem, as you will, for fraud detection and then fraud prevention is a big. And you'll see us making announcements over the next coming quarters and years as we extend our capabilities into additional fraud detection and prevention technologies beyond biometric and document. Also, then the use of that. And I talked a little bit about that. We'll be making an announcement soon on kind of enterprise grade authentication capabilities associated with using biometrics for the very things that we talked about for onboarding and password reset, uh, and then just traditional authentication as well. So very very similar from what you're talking about of where you guys are focused. Um,
Really exciting to hear that. Looking forward to those announcements.
yeah, thanks. So we covered a lot today. I'm looking at the time, sensitive to time, and I think we agreed that we want to be one of the shorter presentations because people are going to be sitting through Octane for hours and hours and hours. So I'm hopefully we've accomplished that together and also delivered some good information. Would you mind kind of summarizing the challenges you guys are facing and any tips for how to solve some of those for the crowd listening?
To keep up with the moving world, to keep up with the cloud initiatives and SaaS world, and to keep up with the rising expectations from the users. Identity is becoming more and more key to bridging the gap between user experience and security. The user's expectations of experience, right? What we have done so far, we can now onboard them remotely. The process which would have taken weeks or days earlier right now takes minutes with proper security checks and compliance and regulation needs. They exist on the same system across multiple businesses. They can self-serve more on all their devices whilst keeping them secure, as I mentioned, right? Security is key to everything and staying regulatory compliant. Um, Traditionally, it's been a tug of war between security and experience, right? But with technologies such as Onfido, Okta, Azure, AWS, right, we can get the best of all the worlds. It's now more than a back office process, it's a strategic imperative for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't end on a better note. We're talking about that these systems are becoming very strategic. Dhruvin, thank you very much, really, on behalf of Octane team, and Onfido. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for your time today, and then to all of our listeners, thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the event.